Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Week 4 Top 25 predictions. And oh my gosh, this has finally spiced up a little bit, hasn't it? A lot of very interesting matchups, some of which are not top 25 matchups that I chose to include, so top 25 is kind of incorrect. But let's not spoil too much. A like and subscribe would help, a comment always helps. Let's get straight into this. So on Friday night at Nebraska, Illinois has to play at Nebraska. This is a top 25 matchup for a Nebraska team that should totally be in the top 25, and I agree they should be in the top 25, versus an Illinois team who has received a fraudulent ranking. Illinois is going to get steamrolled in this game. Nebraska is only favored by 7.5. That's honestly looking like free money. Because the thing about the Illinois ranking right now is their ranking was fed off of Kansas, who's now 1-2. And in that Kansas game, they only won by 6. And their home stadium, they required Jalon Daniels to give them 3 interceptions, one of which I believe was a pick 6. I believe there was a pick 6 in this game. So, was it really? Yes, there was a pick 6. I finally found it. Was it really a win for Illinois? Sorta, not really. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's just the defense performing, but Kansas is they're starting to look like a not so good football team after their loss to UNLV. Jalon Daniels had another 2 interceptions, and even against Lindenwood, Jalon Daniels had an interception. He's now got like 6 interceptions on the year. And Kansas doesn't look to be that solid of a team other than their run game and their defense. Illinois won basically because they had the game handed to them on a silver platter. That's not going to happen with Nebraska. Nebraska shut down what would be a highly offensive Colorado team. Absolutely shut them down. And they're 3-0. It's also at Nebraska at nighttime. This is the biggest show in the house so far. I mean, obviously that Colorado game was very hyped up, but this one is also going to be pretty big considering it's a top 25 matchup, and the Cornhuskers are in the top 25 for the first time in a long time. Cornhuskers are going to win this one. I would say by more, but to be honest, they kind of stopped against Colorado at around this point. I'm assuming they might do the same thing, but I don't expect this one to be close. I've got Nebraska winning pretty big. NC State at Clemson. NC State was a team that had us all fooled at the start of the year from what it looks like, and they really have struggled in their first couple games. They barely beat Louisiana Tech. They literally had to pull this one out of their ass. They were down 17-6 going into halftime. The game was tied going into the fourth quarter, and again, they had to pull together a fourth quarter comeback to beat Louisiana Tech. Same thing against West Carolina. They had to pull a fourth quarter comeback to beat that team. And when it came down to it, NC State got clobbered by Tennessee. And Tennessee is a really good football team, but they got absolutely stomped by Tennessee. It really wasn't even a close game. Clemson played very good defense for almost all quarters against Georgia before it slipped away. They just pounded Appalachian State, who doesn't look like they're too good this year, but they did just stomp them. I think NC State's taking a step back against, in terms of Georgia, they're taking a massive step back offensively and defensively. It's at Clemson. Clemson's about to make a name for themselves in this one. I'm calling for an annihilation by Clemson. If this one is close in a rivalry, that wouldn't look good for Clemson whatsoever because NC State has really struggled to put together this 2-1 record that they have. I think Clemson might be looking to absolutely throttle this team because they got embarrassed in week 1, or at least from what the final score looks like, they got embarrassed in week 1. They need to bounce back. They showed they want it against Appalachian State. They're going to do it again against NC State. Kansas at West Virginia, first non-top 25 matchup that I chose to include because, to be honest, these were two teams I had being very good in the Big 12 this year. I had Kansas being a one-loss team this year because I had hype for their defense, and Jalen Daniels is finally healthy. And West Virginia, they went 4 losses last year, and they didn't even touch the top 25, completely unrecognized. And now both of these teams sit at 2 losses. I was seriously thinking at this point, Kansas could be like number 15 and West Virginia could be like top 10. Because I had West Virginia beating Penn State at the start of the year. But these teams have just not lived up to their potential. The W in West Virginia's logo looks like the Whataburger W. Just a side note, in case you were interested. I'm going to say West Virginia still wins this one, though. I'm going to follow the Big 12 predictions I had at the beginning of the year. And this is just 2 teams that are in the shitter right now that are going to duke it out. 2 teams that had high expectations that did not live up, and now they get ready to butt heads. I'm going to call for a close one, but I'm going to say West Virginia wins this. Now, if Kansas hits the road and beats West Virginia is in an absolute hole. Like an absolute hole. If Kansas hits the road and beats West Virginia, that's a huge step in the proper direction for Kansas. I think in like my last video, Kansas, I'm not saying Kansas is out. Oh, I believe I said it in a short. I don't think Kansas is out yet. They haven't taken any conference losses, which if they turn things around right now, they could, turn things around in the conference entirely and make a run to the championship. All it takes is a championship win, a conference championship win. You're in the playoffs. Anything outside of that is up to your record and, your strength of schedule and stuff. That's where it gets picky. But winning your conference is a guarantee in. And they haven't taken any conference losses, so they could be taking that account into this. However, same thing with West Virginia. It goes both ways here. And to be honest, it's at West Virginia, so I'm going to take West Virginia in this one. USC at Michigan. So I'm a little skeptical of this one because, Texas made it look so easy going on the road and clobbering Michigan like that. But Texas is the number 1 team in the country now, passing up Georgia. And they sure as hell look like it. I mean, Georgia, again, they look so good in week 1. But then they had that really, really close call against Kentucky. So now Texas takes the lead here. And Michigan showed us that their offense will struggle extremely difficult. They'll struggle a lot against a super good defense like that. And even then, their defense can't really hold a high-powered offense to a halt. They can't really stop them. If you look at USC, how they played against LSU, yeah, that's what USC is a really strong defense and offense. They look great against LSU. But the reason why I'm skeptical is because LSU's been struggling to put things together. They barely escaped South Carolina, which maybe South Carolina is a bit better than we thought. But they barely put the game away against South Carolina. Overall, they lost to USC. Is their offense and defense really that good, or was LSU gassing it up? Question marks everywhere, but I'm going to follow the way they want us to follow. And I'm going to say USC clobbers them. I'm going to say USC goes in there and handles business again in the big house. And defeats Michigan. I think I like their quarterback and stuff, but what I really, really like about this USC team is their defense actually looks capable, at least against LSU. Their defense looked capable, and they handled that Utah State team. Maybe USC is actually a top 5 worthy team this year. Are they actually going to push for it? In the year that they were only ranked like 24 to start the year or something like that, are they actually that top 5 team now? I think this game will definitely put them up there. I think they'll win this game. Michigan defensively was not as overpowered as we thought they were going to be, and offensively, they are even worse than we thought they would be. They look like a pile of shit over there. The fact that they're even in the top 25 is insane to me because the only reason they are is because they lost to, like, now the number one team in the country. It's like, okay, well, they lost their only losses to the number one team in the country. But the way they looked, it's going to catch up to them. They're going to get knocked out. And I think USC's got this one at Michigan. I think they've got this one in the bag. And USC could be really making a name for themselves in the Big Ten right now. Utah at Oklahoma State, game of the week. Cam Rising is set to play from what they've said. He looks to start against this one. And oh boy, do we have a matchup. This one is going to be fun. First, Big 12 matchup between these two. Number 12 at number 14. These two teams are flip-flopping in and out, as well as Kansas State's up there, flip-flopping in and out of the number one team in the Big 12. And a lot of people are saying the Big 12 is like, a weaker conference, a chaotic conference to say the least. But right now, Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State all sit at the top, with Iowa State kind of down there a little bit, but definitely, a threat in the Big 12. And then you kind of, drop down to Arizona, who looked like shit against Kansas State. And UCF made a very big comeback win. But right now, it's those four teams, mainly these three teams. And right in week 4, we get to watch them play. Beautiful stuff. And I'm going to call for a glorious one. I really like this Utah team. With Cam Rising. However, I'm going to stick with my prediction at the start of the year. I said Oklahoma State was going to beat Utah. They've got the home field, which the home field doesn't seem to play much of a factor into Oklahoma State from what I've noticed over the years. They struggled against Arkansas a lot. They struggled against Oklahoma last year. Yes, it does play a massive factor into it, but not as much as other stadiums would. Even though they've got those loud-ass paddles, I think Utah is a team that can go into this stadium calm and composed. But it's really just going to come down to good football. Now, Utah's got a bruiser defense, but Oklahoma State has a very explosive offense. If they don't get caught down right away, they have an explosive offense and they can get things rolling. But Utah's the same way, man. With Cam Rising, they're a threatening team. With a healthy Cam Rising, they are a serious threat at all times. I'm going to call for a beautiful matchup in overtime. Oklahoma State wins by 3. Another close call for them, but I'm going to say they win this one. Tennessee at Oklahoma. This is one of the games of the week, only because it's a top 25 matchup, really top 15 matchup. Not for long. Oklahoma's not lasting in the top 25 for much longer. Tennessee's going to be the first team to prove that. Their quarterback is super good at Tennessee, like actually a stellar over there. I'm going to say an annihilation. I'm going to say an absolute annihilation. Oklahoma struggled to put away Tulane in their home stadium. They barely beat Houston by 4 points. I am not liking this Oklahoma team. Whereas Tennessee, a team that I thought was getting overrated, little did I know their quarterback was a dog. They beat Chattanooga 69-3. They beat NC State 51-10, and then they shut out Kent State 71-0. This Tennessee team has been beating up on Pee-wees. Yes, I'm calling NC State a Pee-wee too. They've been beating up on Pee-wees, waiting for their moment. I think Tennessee's going to go into Oklahoma and show them that Oklahoma needs to get their fucking shit together. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to beat teams like this. I'm sorry, but the quarterback, Jackson Arnold, I don't think he's that good. And if your rushing leader right now for Oklahoma is your quarterback, you've got a massive problem. An absolutely massive problem. The only thing keeping Oklahoma in right now is their defense. That's the only reason they've stayed alive is they have a pretty good defense from what it looks like, but they're not going to be able to keep up with Tennessee's offense. And ultimately, I don't know how Tennessee's defense looks so far, but I'm pretty sure they look pretty good considering they held a ranked NC State team to 10 points, even though I'm not sure NC State is that good. Still held them to 10 points. I'm calling for a Tennessee annihilation on the road. No chance Oklahoma wins this game. And if they do, that would be a massive statement win for Oklahoma football. Like, that would be insane if Oklahoma wins this game. That would be like them beating Texas in the Red River rivalry like last year. If they win this game, that would be absolutely huge for Oklahoma football. If Tennessee wins this game, it's just another day. Bowling Green at Texas A&M. I wanted to include this one because Bowling Green hit the road and barely lost to Penn State. And obviously, A&M kind of notorious for losing these games, but also definitely a questionable team right now, being in the top 25. I feel like if you really watch college football, you'd want to call for an upset here. However, Texas A&M has seemingly switched their quarterback since that Notre Dame loss, and they hit the road and got a win in the Swamp in a game they were up massive in, which I don't care if Florida's good or not. A win that big in the Swamp is very impressive. Miami can relate because now they're number 8. Wow. Look at me spitting bars. Miami can relate because now they're number 8, and that win clearly was impressive to a lot of people, myself included. However, Bowling Green did play Penn State super duper strong, but I can kind of think that Penn State went in there like, it's Bowling Green. Like, who are these people? And Bowling Green actually came out tough. Texas A&M saw that. Texas A&M can prepare for that, but are they going to be able to prepare enough, or is Bowling Green actually that good of a football team? Something I'm noticing about Bowling Green's conference is that they've got a lot of studs in there. They've got a lot of studs in that conference. They've got, obviously, Bowling Green themselves, NIU, who hit the road and upset Notre Dame, and Toledo. Toledo is at the top of the conference. They just went into Mississippi State and won 41-17. Like, they absolutely dominated Mississippi State in Mississippi State's home stadium. Bowling Green as well. They played Penn State all the way to the end. I haven't really looked at many other teams. That Eastern Michigan played Washington, got beat pretty good. Ohio played Syracuse pretty well, and they're 2-1 now. Syracuse might be a pretty good team in the Big 12 or in the ACC. Buffalo got shut out by Missouri. All right. Ball State got shut out 62-0 by Miami. Akron got killed in their game. So it's like some of them are not good, but some of them are good. And the ones that are good, I'm actually going to take a lot of faith in. Because I think this conference, they definitely have these teams in these conferences that you should be looking out for. And I think Bowling Green, Toledo, and NIU are teams you want to keep a lookout for. I would love to call the upset here, but I think Texas A&M will properly prepare for this, and they might take the win. This is just this is me basically just saying, like, the line is 1 point for A&M. I don't know how much A&M is going to win by. I don't even know if A&M is going to win, but I'm going to say they're going to win. I'm just taking a win. Like, that's all I'm saying. The score is just a score in the world. I'm just saying Texas A&M is going to win. That's all. That's it. That's all I got to say. Michigan State at Boston College. I was also kind of interested in this game because Boston College, they just went on the road and played super well against Missouri. Like, they just went on the road and played super well against Missouri. But Michigan State, they haven't really gotten their chance. They barely beat FAU in week 1, like barely. And you look at that and you're like, okay, well, maybe they're not that good. But then they turn around and hit the road and beat Maryland, and their quarterback actually looked really good. That I don't know how to say his name, Aiden Childs. I'm going to say Childs. Aiden Childs absolutely balls out in that game. He just didn't have a good game against FAU, but he balled out against Maryland. And then they shut out Prairie View, which, I mean, is Prairie View. Like, you can't expect much, but still shut him out 40-0. You get Boston College on the road or at home. Boston College at home, a team that's coming back from a big loss against Missouri, but a really solid game for them. And Michigan State, a team who's 3-0. There's a lot of emotion going into this game for both teams. Boston College wants to bounce back, but Michigan State wants to stay undefeated. I will take Boston College here, but I could expect a good matchup out of these teams. And this could be a big game for both of these teams going forward because obviously Boston College, their conference is balls wide open, like literally wide open, minus Miami. Miami pretty much sits at the top. And I guess Louisville and Clemson are, teams you should look out for. Pitt maybe as well. I'm a little questionable about Pitt. A lot of people are talking about the quarterback, and the quarterback seems to be pretty good over there, but they definitely pulled that West Virginia game. They pulled that out of their ass. They really pulled that one out of their ass, as well as they pulled out that Cincinnati game out of their ass again. But other than that, I mean, right now the conference is wide open. Like, seriously. Every team in the ACC except for Florida State and Wake. Those are the only two teams that are performing bad. Every other team has a seemingly good record, but like you look at Georgia Tech apparently has already played 4 games. That's interesting. Georgia Tech has to hit the road and play Louisville. Probably not going to win that. Duke barely beat Northwestern on the road. They haven't played anybody yet. They're probably going to go 4-0. Cal could be interesting. I'm going to keep on saying that Auburn win is impressive on the road like that. Virginia, I tried to give them faith, but they lost to Maryland. I'm not too sure they're going to beat Coastal Carolina this week, but maybe I shouldn't give up on them entirely. Syracuse, whatever. I'm just yapping about the ACC. But this is definitely a game to look out for because Boston College, a team that has the ACC, they have the ability to fly away in it, literally. They have the ability to be a much better team in that conference and have a very good record. But Michigan State, what are they going to do in the Big Ten right now? The Big Ten is a very competitive conference with a lot of good teams. USC, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, even Rutgers, like Nebraska, I guess maybe Illinois, doubt it. Michigan State, how are they going to perform in the Big Ten? You need to win as many games as you can. You won a big one against Maryland. You need to win as many games as you can. There's going to be a lot of emotion going into this game. And our last game of the week. Sorry I yapped so long about that non-conference, really without saying anything too important, just yapping. Kansas State at BYU. And if you know me, I put my background pictures as the team I'm picking. Sometimes I like to trick. Sometimes I don't trick. Take your guess. Am I tricking? I'm not tricking. I'm taking BYU. BYU is 3-0. They're a bit questionable. They haven't played anybody, but this is the one where we play them, and everybody's going to be like, I say everybody. People are going to be looking at this like, how are they going to play in this? BYU, beat in their first game like Southern Illinois. Then they hit the road and beat SMU, which was a pretty impressive team for a lot of people, or a pretty impressive win for a lot of people. A lot of people thought SMU was going to be better. Now, SMU did struggle in week 1, but, still an impressive win by BYU to hit the road like that and win. Then they went on the road to Wyoming and won that in a game they were favored by. It won't tell me how much they were favored by, but they were pretty much favored, to say the least. Now they get to come home and host Kansas State, who's number 13. And what time is this game at on Saturday night? 7:30 p.m. This is doomsday for Kansas State. If you've made it this far, hear me close. This is doomsday for Kansas State. 7:30 night game at BYU. Undefeated BYU. Number 13 in the country is coming to town for your first Big 12 opener of the year and your first real big home game of the year. You best believe these Mormons about to get rowdy. You best believe this team is about to hit hard. Kansas State better not blink twice. Avery Johnson, I believe this Kansas State team right now is one of the better teams in the Big 12, and I do believe I was wrong at my preseason predictions. I thought Kansas State was being a little bit overrated. I was wrong. I can say that with my chest. I was wrong about Kansas State. They're one of the better teams in the Big 12. I was 1,000% wrong about U of A, that's for sure. They are much worse. They were the team I should have predicted, but got to look at it from my point of view. I would just get called biased if I did that. But besides that, Kansas State is going on the road to BYU, 7:30 p.m. BYU may not be the best team ever. We may not know how they are yet. We may not know what they're about yet, but it is there's going to be so much emotion going into this game. And that really plays into college football a lot. The adrenaline, the passion. These players are going to play. Kansas State, I can't say they're going to play that hard back. Like, they're going to probably be, they're going to feel out of place in this. Like, BYU is going to hit hard. I believe that Kansas State will struggle in this game. And I think they will lose in this game. I don't know how Avery Johnson's going to perform against a team like this. They're not in their home stadium playing the overrated Wildcats. I mean, BYU could be worse than I'm giving them credit for, but I'm going to take the gamble that BYU wins this one. Let me know what your guys' predictions are in the comments down below. Yeah, I'm very excited for this week of football, but a like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps, and that's all from me. Adios.